And the Persians looking on, seeing this line of Greeks charging towards them, according to Herodotus, they actually think they're mad, because you'd have to be a little bit crazy as a numerically inferior force to come onto the plain, give battle, and also charge headlong at your opponent. So they actually think they're crazy, and they're also really surprised at the fact that these Greeks aren't even tired by the end of this run, even though they're wearing all this heavy kit. And this tactic works.
If I'm
The
not
Athenian,
mistaken, Herodotus, his original claim was they ran the entire distance from the start, and at the day of battle, they were eight. Sorry, what is that unit? 8 stadia apart, which roughly translates to about 1,600 meters or so, or a mile. But I think I definitely concur with you. They would have probably just broke into the charge just outside of missile
yeah,
range, because,
this,
as we said earlier, these guys are marching with
yeah,
20 to 30 kilos on their back.
this is one of those situations where a little modern interpretation and sort of sense needs to be involved in reading the textual source. In Herodotus' defense, he doesn't act. I don't think he actually. In Herodotus, he does say no less than 8 stadia, but in Herodotus' defense, he's sort of looking at the events of the battle sort of years afterwards, and so you could end up with this story being embellished where the Athenians do their sacrifices, they draw up, and they just run at the Persians. it's it's very much in the section where Herodotus is describing this prelude is very much a little condensed in terms of the chronology and the time. Well, he does say no less than 8 stadia, so he does sort of put himself in that in that pit, as it were. So after the Athenians make that charge at the Persians, the lines meet contact, and what the ancient Greek call the othismos, which is the great phalanx push, begins. The Athenians on the flanks actually managed to gain ground against their more lightly armed Persian opponents. However, the centre, which is where Miltiades had thinned his ranks, begins to give way, and actually the Persians end up breaking through the Greek centre and
Can I just
chasing.
add, two of the tribes that were at the center were commanded by Themistocles and Aristides, who are going to play a big role in our next episode.
Indeed, Plutarch actually has quite interesting stories about Aristides and Themistocles, and also Miltiades and Climacus as well, involved in the fighting at Marathon, because these tribes are fighting sort of next to one another, where neighbors are fighting alongside neighbors, Athenians fighting alongside Athenians from different parts of Attica. And so you have interesting dynamics where Plutarch will sort of say, and where Plutarch almost says that Climacus and Aristides are sort of almost fighting back, sort of fighting side to side, almost because these tribes are next to one another,
It
which sort of,
almost feels like what was the reason for the Lex Julia being passed.
yeah. The Persians are overwhelming the Greek center. However, the Athenians on the flanks are actually doing very well. And incidentally, one of the Athenian tribes on the flanks is the tribe of Iantis, the tribe of Ajax, who still take pride, even centuries later, that their soldiers fought on the flanks and pushed the Persians back. Uh, while I was researching my thesis, I genuinely had this thought was, well, is it really something to be that proud of? Because you're in the easy part of the battlefield if you're on the flank at Marathon. It's the center that gets absolutely pummeled. But I digress. Once the Athenians managed to defeat the Persians on the flanks, they now turn on the Persian center, who are busy pursuing the Athenian center back on the plain, and they managed to catch the Persians in an encirclement. And the Persian army then the Persian position then becomes a killing field because they're being attacked from all sides. And generally, when in ancient warfare, when you see the enemy come up from behind you, it's usually a good time for the entire army to run, and this is what the Persians do. The Persians, once they see the Athenians on their flanks and right behind them, they just make a run for it straight back to the ships, and the Athenians chase them the entire way over. And once the Persians reach the beach, it is absolute chaos, as all the Persians are trampling over each other, trying to reach the safety of their ships and lift off. And the Greeks actually pursue them so vigorously that they actually do manage to capture 7 Persian ships. And one Greek soldier even attempts to sort of grab one of the Persian ships in order to stop it sailing away. A Persian chops off his arm with an axe. He reaches up,
Ouch.
grabs it by his other hand. The Persian chops off that hand as well, and eventually the Athenian then resorts to trying to hold on to this ship with his teeth.
Did he get his head chopped off?
I don't actually know. The story actually stops there because I think for the ancients the whole point of the story is sort of the sort of vigor and energy that the Athenians are doing, that the Athenians have in trying to grab hold and stop these Persians from escaping.
Can I just also say that I could just see Themistocles in the back of his head with the 7 captured triremes saying, another fine addition to my collection.
However, the day's not over yet, and the job's not over yet. Even though the Athenians have routed the Persian army in front of them, there's still a Persian army sailing away back to Athens, ready to attack the city. And they've spent about 3 hours fighting the Battle of Marathon, and the Persians had a little head start when they loaded their men up on the ships at night. It's about a 10-hour trip sailing from Marathon to Athens, and you also have to give the Persians another couple of hours in order to offload all of their troops, which in short, the Athenians really need to hurry up. They need to get back to the city. So even though all of the soldiers are sort of collapsed onto the beach, exhausted after fighting a battle, they do have to get back up and march all the way back to the city. And in one pretty, I think, ballsy move, they leave Aristides the Just, one of the generals, with with a contingent of his soldiers in order to protect all of the slaves and the booty that they've managed to seize from the Persian camp, which I think is a pretty ballsy move considering that the city could potentially be sacked behind them.
Well, got to protect their investment, right? Sorry, their
Exactly.
spoils.
Yeah, and Aristides is a sort of a man of excellent reputation, and probably one of the most trustworthy men and with the most integrity in classical Athenian history, and so he's the perfect guy at this big moment to keep
The
control of
Just.
all of this booty and all of this baggage.
The Just, right? So,
Exactly. They don't call him the Just for nothing. Before the Athenians march back, so the story says, but not Herodotus, this ends up getting misattributed to Herodotus, but it's actually a legend given by the poet Lucian, where supposedly Miltiades sends Pheidippides to run all the way back to Athens in order to announce news of the victory. Pheidippides is, well, he's had a pretty hard campaign. He's had to run to Sparta and back, fight this battle, and now he has to run from Marathon back to Athens, which I can say from experience is
that's
not.
like 500 kilometers of running
Yeah, which I
in
can say from
like
experience,
a week.
Marathon to Athens is not an easy run. Because Marathon is on the coast, and Athens, uh, if you look at, there's a reason why Athens is sort of centered around the Acropolis, because it's on high ground. So running from Marathon to Athens is, you're more or less always going to be running uphill. And this overexertion clearly shows, because according to legend, Pheidippides actually does reach Athens in time before the Persians. He announces the victory in the marketplace to the archons, and then drops dead of exhaustion. And fun fact, on the road from Athens to Marathon, there is actually a statue of Pheidippides in his armor, sort of making that sort of struggling on that run. There's a modern statue.
I guess one thing of having such a move, right, of the runner coming, at least then the bottom of the barrel recruits would have the nerve to hold on for a few hours till
Yeah,
the main army arrives.
yeah. And and the modern day uh, race known as the Marathon is named after this very battle, where Pheidippides ran from Marathon to Athens.
Well, at least it's not named after the trip to Sparta. That would have been
Oh
more.
my god, yeah. I think of all, that's probably would be one of the hardest races in sort of running, basically modern day running, and it is one of those races that probably wouldn't be turned into an athletic event.
Fair enough. What were the losses
The
of such a battle? Modern estimates. Let's not go with
Yeah,
because I'm pretty sure the ancient historians might say 250,000 dead Persians, right?
so according to Herodotus, 6,400 Persian troops are killed at the Battle of Marathon. Modern estimates tend to be around 4 to 5,000, and
Surprisingly,
also
not too bad.
yeah,
Like the difference.
and according to Herodotus, about 192 Athenians are killed, including the polemarch Callimachus, who's then hailed as a hero afterwards, was he's the one who gave that deciding vote in favor of meeting the Persians in battle on the field. In addition to the Greek poet Aeschylus's brother, who also dies at Marathon. Aeschylus is actually a tragedian, oh my god, with a very interesting personal history because he fights at both the battles of Marathon and Salamis. He's part of that generation of Athenian citizens, this golden generation.
I'm just thinking that 192 mentioned by Herodotus almost makes me wonder, is that why Caesar might have just said 192 at Pharsalus like 4 centuries later?
Maybe. You never know with Caesar. Always an excellent publicist for his own deeds. And it and both the Athenian and Plataean dead are actually buried in common at the burial mound at Marathon. So if anyone in the audience runs the Athens Authentic Marathon, which more or less takes you the route from the town of Marathon back to the Panathenaic Stadium in Athens, it's supposed to sort of homage the original marathon ran by Pheidippides. You actually do a lap around the burial mound at Marathon, and you can actually visit it. And underneath it lie the Greek dead who were slain in the battle, including Callimachus. When Datis arrives back, when Datis arrives at Athens, to his absolute dismay, he sees the Athenian hoplite army lined up, arrayed in front of him. So he's realized at this point that not only have the Greeks made it back in time to defend the city, they've also defeated his army back on the plain as well.